Hi, I'm Matt.
And I'm Matt.
Of LFD Research. Today, we're playing around with a couple of handguns that have a modular design where the fire control group is actually in a chassis that sits inside the frame.
Yep.
So you can actually do some really interesting things.
Yeah.
Like the SIGs, which they're like, hey, everybody can do this. Where the Ruger has actually been doing it for quite a while. It's just not really spoken of.
Yeah. SIG intends for people to mix and match parts and change things out, where Ruger that's possible, but it's not a user serviceable intention.
It's not intended to be user serviceable. Granted, I wouldn't say it's that hard to do. It's just a little finicky, and when you remove the chassis out,
there's parts that you can lose.
There are parts that can come out of alignment, and we're going to bring the camera on back and show you the difference between those.
Here we've got 5 examples of handguns that use a chassis system inside of a polymer frame. We have SIG P250, the successor to that, SIG P320. We have the Ruger LCP, the Ruger SR22, and the Ruger American pistol. Okay, we're going to start off with the LCP, so we're going to move these others over to the side. So here we've got our LCP. This has a metal chassis that holds all the components inside of a polymer frame. Now this is not intended to be a modular gun. There really isn't any other size slides or grip frames or barrels. But it is constructed similarly to these other guns that are supposed to be interchangeable.
And of course, the LCP can be swapped out for different color frames, or if, say, you manage to break a frame, it is a non-serialized part to replace. That is one reason that makes this a very neat design to go to.
Okay, so here you can see this metal frame that holds all of the moving parts inside the polymer frame. It's just a normal hammer-fired gun. Not a whole lot of complexity to it, but you can get these frames in different colors, and by driving out this pin and disconnecting the hammer spring from inside the bottom of the grip, you can lift this whole chassis out and put it into a different frame. To take this thing out of the chassis, we're going to remove this plug where you push in on a tab. That comes loose. So you can see our mainspring right there that's held in, attached to this bar. That's just sitting in a couple grooves in the frame. So we'll reach in and get that. Whoop. Just pull this bar.
And we gotta go 52 pickup.
Yep. And lose that. It didn't get too far. So that's loose. And now drive out these 2 pins. So these are plastic pins, so we'll be a little gentle knocking them out. Here's the first. Here's our second. And now this whole chassis just lifts up and out of the frame. So this is most of the mechanical parts. Like so. Okay, so we've got trigger, our transfer bar, mainspring.
And that is why you don't take the Rugers apart, because that kind of stuff happens.
Yeah. This is why this one's not really a user serviceable. And now that it's put back together, I'm going to set this down before it goes off again.
We got the Ruger SR22 here. We're not going to take this thing down because, sadly, this makes the LCP actually look simple. But you'll notice here, with the actual serial number, that's metal inside the plastic frame. So this is yet another Ruger polymer lower gun with a steel chassis in it. But we're just going to set it off to the side. Alright, we're going to take down the Ruger American right quick. This is their newest gun, and it, of course, features a steel chassis inside of a polymer frame. Now, we get to this point, everybody knows how to pull the slide off. Easy peasy. Right back here, we have the serialized part. What you have to do to take it down is get it to line up right about here. Then you can pretty much push through from the far side, and then you just need to apply a little pressure right here on this outer bar so you can push in from the back. And that just takes a little bit of tension off, makes it nice and simple to disassemble. Now you're right here, chassis come out, you lift up, pull it forward, because you got a little lock on the back, it's out. Now, this right here is the takedown lever spring. And then on the other side you have your trigger transfer bar, your trigger spring, and all the other front parts. When you're at this point, do not pull the trigger, because stuff will fly. But you'll notice the gun design, very, very similar. The trigger transfer bar is almost identical across the two. And if I actually had an LC9, that would fit right in between these, because the LC9 was initially this LCP with a big old spring coming down for the mainspring. Now it's a striker fire design for the LC9 Pro, but it's very extremely similar in the designs. And these metal parts are what's serialized, so no matter what happens to the actual frame, these are the registered parts under federal guidelines as to what is the firearm. So we're going to put these back together off frame, but just wanted you to see how the design has developed over time.
Alright, so here we have our SIG P320. We're going to take the chassis out of that and compare it to the Ruger American chassis. So, to take that down, you lock the slide to the rear, turn that lever just the same as on the Ruger, slide the barrel, or the slide right off. Now this one, it's a little bit easier to take this pin out because you're intended to be able to swap frames and slides from gun to gun on this serialized part. This is actually a P250 frame, because when I got my P320, they weren't selling P320 frames yet. These two chassis really look pretty similar, and they function similar. They do the same functions in the gun to hold everything together and hold all your mechanical parts and be the legal firearm. And most of the differences are just from the manufacturing techniques, where SIG is a stamped part and Ruger is a MIM casting that's cleaned up on a mill.
But you'll notice that the Ruger actually has a bunch of parts that can pop free, since it's not exactly meant to be taken down.
Yeah, removing it from the frame is kind of an armorer level job.
Considering you can lose the trigger spring and other springs.
Yep. Yeah, where on the SIG fire control unit, all the springs are actually captive. Like, this spring actually is looped around and bent, so it can't escape. So you can actually run the trigger bar without anything coming loose. Nothing escapes. P250 is also comes apart actually even easier because it doesn't have the safety bar right here for disassembly safety that makes you have the magazine removed. And then this one, everything on here is captive. There we go. And it looks just like the P320 chassis, because the 320 is actually just a P250 that's been converted over to striker fire. So you get rid of the hammer and add your striker, your sear for the striker. This block that has the sear in it fills up where that hammer moves through. The way I had these set up previously was I had the P250 in the subcompact frame for carry, and I had the P320 in the full-size frame as my competition gun. But these modules, you can swap and mix and match however you feel. All you need to do is get the right upper to go with it. So this 320 slide will actually slide onto the frame for the 250 until it gets to the hammer. That's how similar the two are. And you can even do something kind of silly, like put this compact frame on the full size.
It has the fist!
Yeah, it actually does have that standoff if you wanted. I haven't ever found that to be real necessary. Here's that 320, and it just slots right down into that subcompact frame. Find the right cross pin. The cross pin from the 320 is a little bit different than the 250 because there's a cut so that you can lever this takedown safety out of the way. There we go. See that little safety bar there? That's part of the magazine, or the safety system to make sure you have the magazine removed before you take the gun apart. So when you turn the takedown lever, it pushes that safety bar into the magazine well to make sure that you've taken the magazine off, or taken the magazine out. Yep. So here's our 250 frame. Oops. That will almost lock in on the 320, but there's no hammer to hit the firing pin. But then you can take the full-size 320 frame or slide and put it on there, and now you've got subcompact frame with a full-size slide. Yeah. The only real problem is you have this gap there. So if you wanted to have the extra sight radius on your compact and a short grip for carrying, you could put this together like that and it'll run just fine. You just have to worry about getting lint and dirt in there.
And how much do those frames actually run if you were to want to get a full-size one and cut it down?
Just the plastic frame is about $35. So if you want to practice stippling, or you want to get a full-size grip and chop it to the subcompact length, that's nice and cheap. And these aren't serialized, so you can just order them right off a gun broker or from SIG or any of their dealers, and have it shipped right to you. Slide and barrel sent to you, because that's not a serialized part. Those are just components. Let's see, there's our 320. Put this guy back together how he was. And just that easily, we go back to having this be a full-size service gun. And if I had the correct top end, I could just swap that internal chassis and put a compact or a subcompact slide on it. And how I was talking about using different size components together before, I actually use a compact slide on a subcompact frame as my carry gun, because they're made to work together like that.